and Stephanie. I will start introducing our topic as well as discuss some ethics in ABA. Ethics in applied behavior analysis help the behavior analyst determine what is morally correct course of action given any situation. Cooper, Heron, and Heward, 2007, state 3 basic questions. What is the right thing to do? What is worth doing? What does it mean to be a good behavior analyst? These questions are great for asking yourself when a situation arises. They can be used as guidelines on how to be a professional RBT and behavior analyst. In any setting where ABA is taking place, such as in-home or in an ABA clinic, gift-giving situations can occur, such as receiving gifts from clients, gifts from therapists to clients, and/or gifts from clients to therapists. Our definition of gift-giving can include any tangible that is given or received between an RBT or a BCBA and a client. The BACB Code of Ethics defines a client as whomever behavior analyst provides services, whether an individual person or a recipient of services, a parent or guardian of a service recipient, an organization, a public or a private organization. Types of gifts can be of monetary value, large or small, as well as edible. Examples can include anywhere from coffee mugs to high monetary value gift cards. A non-example of gift giving would include creating a token board for the client to use during programs. This is not considered gift giving because it is directly related and only for programming of the client. We will be discussing the against side and the pro side. The against side will be based on not allowing gift giving in ABA therapy, and the pro side will be discussing how in some situations gift giving and accepting those gifts can be appropriate and acceptable. All therapists and BCBAs must understand the ethical practice codes as well as the rules for specific settings in which they work. The BACB Code of Ethics 1.06D states behavior analysts do not accept any gifts from or give any gifts to clients because this constitutes a multiple relationship. Gift giving can affect many people, not just the recipient or the giver of the gift. BCBAs must comply with ethical codes with the insight of what is best for the client. So what about the client's culture? Some cultures feel it is rude to not accept a gift. Cooper and others, 2007, state it is important to understand that these codes change over time due to the changing culture in which we live. When we work so closely with a family, they tend to give gifts as small tokens to show appreciation during holidays, birthdays, or really any time throughout the year. So why can't we accept and/or show our appreciation to the families we work with? The BACB has decided to prohibit the accepting of all gifts of any kind from all clients. As therapists, we will discuss the different sides to this, and we will also answer questions such as what types of gifts we feel are acceptable, how can we refuse a gift in an appropriate way, and what are the different monetary values on whether we should accept or not. Now, Emily will start talking about the pro side of gift giving.
To start, I will quote St. Francis of Assisi. He said, "For it is in giving that we receive." On the pro side of the debate, we look at cultural reasons behind why gift giving should be allowed in some circumstances. According to the ethical code, behavioral analysts do not engage in discrimination. This includes discrimination of race, ethnicity, gender, religion, etc. According to the BACB Professional and Ethical Compliance Code, Section 1.05, it is forbidden to discriminate. It says, in their work-related activities, behavioral analysts do not engage in discrimination against individuals or groups based on age, gender, race, culture, ethnicity, national origin, religion, sexual orientation, disability, language, socioeconomic status, or any basis prescribed by law. Behavioral analysts do not knowingly engage in behavior that is harassing or demeaning to persons with whom they interact in their work based on factors such as those as persons' age, gender, race, culture, ethnicity, national origin, religion, sexual orientation, disability, language, or socioeconomic status, in accordance with the law. According to the article Gifts from Patients, the roots of gift giving are deeply embedded in many cultures. Electing not to receive gifts could possibly be looked at as discrimination. Lockholm argued that gifts of small value are okay to accept, and I quote, "Declining a gift actually may cause more damage than any harm done by accepting it. If a physician rejects a gift, it may be interpreted by the patient as lack of regard for the patient's wishes and may hurt the patient's feeling, irrevocably fracturing the patient-physician relationship." William Arthur Ward said it best: "Feeling gratitude and not expressing it is like wrapping a present and not giving it." Next, Marquita will go into detail of the pro side of the gift-giving debate.
Hi, my name is Marquita. Today I will address the main argument for the pro side of gift giving. I will give insight as to why not allowing giving of gifts can cause more harm to your client than it does good. It can be seen as discrimination to other cultures to not accept a gift from them. This directly relates to Section 1.05, Professional and Scientific Relationships of the BACB, Professional and Ethical Compliance Code for culture, age, gender, religion, or sexual orientation. It goes on to note that behavioral analysts are to never knowingly behave in a way that isolates or harass those of whom they come in contact with, interact with, or come in contact with different belief systems, culture, or race than you. According to the article, Gifts from Patients, a consideration of gift giving as an ethical dilemma, roots of gift giving are deeply 2001. Gift giving of healthcare providers is very common after care has been given. It is only right that the provider appreciatively receives the gift, as it is their way of saying thank you. It may be the best way to show gratitude for the received services. Being a solid relationship is important, as it gets show compassion. Understanding their culture values should always be. In understanding the values of one, you can run into a slippery slope. Every client and provider relationship is different from person to person. The connections are sometimes hard to build. For example, the book Art of Belongings talks about the different culture views on gift giving. In the Japanese culture, when one is offered food, it is expected that it is taken out of appreciation. Thing is offered and then it is denied, it is seen as a sign of disrespect. McKay H. 2016. Every culture is different on their views of gift giving. As a provider, many different races, culture, and religions are bound to be potential clients. Not all clients are the same culture of which personally held. Saying thank you and giving verbal praise is enough for some cultures after receiving services or help. However, some cultures are much higher regard. Saint encompasses that belief of some cultures. Some culture backgrounds think that by giving, they will continue getting good service. This could be just a way of saying thank you. When words fail, actions speak. Some cultures live by those words. As William Arthur Ward said, feeling gratitude and not expressing it is like wrapping a present and not giving it. Lacombe talks about the value of gift acceptance, but also states that declining a gift from a client can do more harm than it does helping. Wagner C. 2001. For example, young clients may not understand why their gift is not accepted. When therapy providers reject a gift, it can hurt the feelings of the patients, not just for cultural reasons, but also because they may be too young to understand. At age, their culture is all that they know and understand. As therapists, it is essential to teach children to be generous or reinforce them for doing so. In a case like this, it does more harm to not accept the gift. The child should be reinforced for being generous as long as the gift is within certain realm. Although being on the pro side of the debate it is important that this giving in a workplace. It is necessary to make sure every party involved understands that what is acceptable and what is not. At first, therapists should be made aware what culture the client practice. The team of therapists should research the culture to make sure that they are well educated and informed on what the norms are for that culture. If there are any questions that arise, they should be asked right away before becoming in a situation where the conflict can arise. Once it is very they will be offended if the gift was given and not taken. It should be clear to everyone what the limit of the gift should be. Sure, discrimination does not occur when the gift is given. Next, Emily will give the illustrations.
As said before, not accepting gifts may be looked at as discrimination in some cultures. It is very important that behavioral analysts are culturally sensitive. In Section 1.05 of the Ethical Code, it is stressed that behavioral analysts do not engage in discrimination. I personally work at an autism center as a registered behavioral technician, or RBT. My center recently held an all-center meeting to specifically address culture. It was called a cultural competency training. In the training, we talked about many very important details to remember in order to ensure that we follow Section 1.05 of the Ethical Code. Cultural competency is defined as the ability to understand others' perspectives, values, beliefs, behaviors, and communication styles. The basics of being culturally competent is awareness, attitude, knowledge, and skills. Being aware of any differences that someone has that are different than your own is the first step. Know what types of differences that you may see. This could be from their language to their eye contact, beliefs, actions, gestures, or gift giving. It is important to take steps to be 100% educated on the culture that you may be dealing with. Then also being self-aware of how you may react to those differences. Remember that to be culturally competent, you must be neutral, considerate, respectful, and accepting of their differences. It is always a good idea to be in good practice of communicating with people with different beliefs or culture than your own. Here's a video that discusses the importance of cultural competency.
Competence is the ability to serve people in an appropriate way. So whoever comes through your doors, you're able to treat them with the level of respect and dignity that they deserve, and that they perceive that the service that they get is done in a way that is comfortable and meets with their standards. So that's essentially what cultural competence is. And the reason why it's important is because we have such disparities in this country when it comes to medical services and as well as behavioral health services. So if we can ensure that our providers do everything that they can in a culturally competent manner, then we can reduce those disparities. So through a contract that we have with the California Department of Alcohol and Drug Programs, our office is able to provide cost-free technical assistance and training to providers to build their capacity in this area, and also to align them with the 14 national class standards. That's the culturally and linguistically.
Near the end of my cultural competency training at work, we split up to discuss some of the cultures that we personally have at our center. At my work, we have pods that are basically the team of BCBAs and RBTs for either early, intermediate, or advanced learners. We all split into our pods that we work in and researched each culture that we have on our team. I think that it was very insightful to research cultures and their views on gift giving. As we did in our pod meeting, I will now break down one specific culture as an example. Gift giving in the Japanese culture is very common. Oftentimes, one will bring gifts whenever meeting with people. Omiyagi is one of the most common types of gifts given in the Japanese culture. Omiyagi is nicely wrapped food. Practical gifts are important in their culture, and food is the most common practical gift. At stores, gift kiosks or gift counters are common, so it is always readily available when necessary. Omiyagi is directly translated as a souvenir, but it means a lot more than that to the culture. Gifts are given for multiple reasons, from thanking someone for doing them a favor to even just visiting somebody's house. It can be in very bad form to be without a gift to give in a business situation, especially. If we were to work with a person of the Japanese culture, they may expect us to take the food. I do not think they would be offended if we had nothing to give in return, but they would expect that we take their gift as a sign of respect to the culture. All cultures should be researched, as many of them have customs that are similar to those of the Japanese culture. When thoroughly researched, we can avoid potential discrimination. Next, Ryan will introduce the con side of the gift-giving debate.
I'm going to introduce Stephanie, who is a summarizer for Against Gift Giving today. She will be discussing the main points as to why gift giving should not be allowed in ABA, either as an RBT or a BCBA. Accepting any type of gift, small or large, can result in multiple relationships. This can also include crossing boundaries, which means exchanging of gifts can open up a complicated set of boundary and relationship issues. BCBs always try to be proactive when problem behaviors occur with a client, so that should be done the same way for gift giving. It is important to also be proactive about telling families the policy on accepting gifts. For example, the ABA company I work for states they remind families several times throughout the year about how and why we do not accept gifts. It is also stated to therapists and BCBAs, even though families' cultures may feel offended when we do not accept a gift, on the other side, families must understand how it would be completely against our policy for not only the company, but the BACB board. Another point Stephanie will be discussing are motives. Are there any motives to this gift? Murray, 1964, states motivation is an internal factor that arouses, directs, and integrates a person's behavior in a given set of circumstances in order to achieve some goal. Even though giving or accepting a gift may not be intended by any motive, other people may see it that way. It can be used to buy love, counteract negative feelings, such as given after a disagreement. Or a gift can be given to be a proactive for a possible disagreement in the future. For example, I was told this story through my supervisor. A BCBA was offered a day trip paid by a family. She kept denying, but it got to a point it was hindering their relationship, so she accepted this gift. Later on, the family and the BCBA got into an argument about programming for their client, and the family ended up suing the BCBA for accepting that gift in the past. This is something that needs to be avoided regardless of the culture or the consistent pressure of the family. Lastly, Stephanie will discuss how preferred treatments can come into play, as well as different types of gifts, such as personal gifts and what they can mean. The main point, as Stephanie discusses the against side, is to remember that all BCBAs and RBTs are required to comply or risk being reported, which brings back the Ethical Code 1.06D, which goes against accepting any type of gift. Now here's Stephanie to discuss more on this topic.
Hi, I'm Stephanie. Today I will be presenting the against argument to gift giving. I will address some points that were made in the for gift giving side, as well as provide information about why accepting gifts from clients and their families is considered unethical. According to an article that studied gift giving amongst mental health care workers, Oots, Poles, and Tompkins found that the majority of healthcare workers are undecided when it comes to accepting gifts. This may be in large part due to people failing to see the harm that could come from accepting gifts. Before I begin, I'd like to expand a little more on the definition Ryan mentioned on gift giving and clarify the meaning of accepting gifts in behavior analysis. It's not just restricted to accepting gifts or edibles you might receive during the holidays. According to a BACB newsletter on gifts published in May of 2015, gifts are defined as any tangible or financial item exchanged between behavior analysts and client outside of scope of contract for services. This can also include food, accepting a cup of coffee, or accepting water bottles from clients and families you may work with. Well, some of you might think, where's the harm in a cup of coffee or in a box of chocolates? Or what if a family offers you food during an at-home therapy session? But soon that cup of coffee will turn into a conversation unrelated to your client. The box of chocolates will turn into a gift card to a store, and accepting food could turn into frequent lunches at a client's house. What may seem harmless over time sets the stage for a dual relationship. Ethical Code 1.06, Section A, addressed this by stating that due to the potentially harmful effects of multiple relationships, behavior analysts avoid multiple relationships. Section B states behavior analysts must always be sensitive to the potentially harmful effects of multiple relationships. If the behavior analyst finds that due to unforeseen factors, a multiple relationship has arisen, they seek to resolve it. A multiple relationship exists when the relationship between the analyst and the client goes beyond that of a professional one. For example, if the client is a family member or becomes a friend. As behavior analysts, we should strive to be aware to not cross any boundaries with our clients and their families. What may seem small and insignificant at one time, over time evolves into something more serious. A term from this phenomenon in ethics is known as the slippery slope. This term was developed by Guthiel and Gabbard and is known as the progression of behaviors in which well-intended boundary crossings progress over time into major violations that are harmful to clients and place the therapeutic process in jeopardy. What the slippery slope concept proves is that crossing boundaries doesn't happen in just one instance. Crossing boundaries can happen over time with events or actions you might not think are a big deal. A big emphasis in the foresight is made about culture playing a part in accepting gifts. As behavior analysts, we work alongside families from many different cultures. While we must be mindful of others' cultures, we must also establish a clear communication with the families we work with and explain beforehand the policies behind gift giving and the ethical dilemmas that come tied to them. If you do not explain beforehand, this is where the awkward situations arise or feelings get hurt if you do not accept a gift. In 2011, Bailey and Birch addressed culture in a declaration of professional practice by stating, "We are in your home to provide treatment to your child. We are not guests and we do not expect to be treated as such." So in order to understand why a person might be on the fence about accepting gifts, I'll address the topic of motives. Motives play an important role in gift giving. Most of us can agree that the number one motive behind giving gifts to therapists must be out of appreciation. Just like families get their sons and daughters gifts, shouldn't therapists get gifts as well? The issue here is you cannot determine for sure the motive behind someone giving a gift. Could this person be seeking preferential treatment? Will accepting such a gift lead to future expectations from the family as far as services? As a behavior analyst, you must recognize the implications that could arise from accepting such gifts. According to Jarek's article on receiving gifts from clients, ethical and therapeutic issues, when it comes to gift giving, the accepting behavior in a therapist can serve as a powerful reinforcer of the gift giving behavior. As a therapist or analyst, you might one day come across a situation in which you may feel awkward denying a gift, so you accept it and save yourself from the awkward encounter. However, the more you accept gifts, the more it's reinforcing the behavior of the person giving you the gifts. After continuously accepting gifts, it's more likely the family will continue to give you gifts in the future. When it comes to gifts in the healthcare setting, Oots, Poles, and Tompkins mention several types of gift given to a therapist by a client. These are courtesy, compensation, and personal. A courtesy gift is one we all assume we're receiving from a client and their family. It is the appreciation gift, the thank you for working one-on-one with our child and changing his life in so many ways. When working in a profession that allows you to work so closely and personally with families, it may be easy to assume that all gifts are given with the intention of simply being a courtesy gift. And I'm not here to argue that families have ulterior motives for gifts, but accepting courtesy gifts can open the door to developing multiple relationships. Accepting these kind of gifts can lead to losing objectivity in a client. Another type of gift is a compensation gift, and this is one of monetary value that attempts to pay the professional for the services they received. This could include giving the therapist money for the holidays or very expensive gifts. A problem with this kind of gift is, as a professional, you may feel indebted to the client and what's going to happen later down the road if a conflict arises between the professional and the client who's constantly showering you with big gifts. Will a professional's judgment be clouded by feeling like this family's been so nice to me, I owe it to them? Accepting monetary and big gifts can lead to a client seeking preferential treatment or expecting it. The third type of gift mentioned is a personal one. A personal gift could be one in which the client or their family is gifting you with something you particularly like. This gift is individualized to the receiver. So let's say the therapist is a big coffee drinker. So for the holidays, a client and his family gift her with a traveler's mug. Personal gifts assume the relationship between the client and the therapist has gone beyond that of a professional one. Personal gifts can cross the boundaries into more of a friendship. By accepting any kind of gift, big or small, no matter the motive, therapists can find themselves in an ethical dilemma. Recently, on January 1st, 2016, the BACB code made an addition to the code by including a stance on gift giving by stating, behavior analysts do not accept gifts or give any gifts to clients because this constitutes a multiple relationship. And next, we will be going to Caitlin, who will illustrate the against side.
Hi, I'm Caitlin. So Ryan and Stephanie mentioned previously, behavior analysts do not any gifts from or give any gifts to clients because this constitutes a multiple relationship. As a result, both BCBAs and ABA therapists are required to comply or at risk of being reported. The BACB Professional Compliance Code, Ethical Code 1.06, multiple relationships states, due to potentially multiple relationships, behavior relationships. Behavior analysts must always be sensitive to the potentially harmful effects of multiple relationships. If behavior analysts find that due to unforeseen factors, a multiple relationship has they seek to report it. Behavior analysts recognize and inform clients and supervisees about potential and harmful effects of multiple relationships. Behavior analysts do not accept any gifts from or give It appears we're having a little technical difficulty. So basically, we do anything and everything we can to avoid gifting relationships, creating slippery slopes with our clients, their families, and anyone close to them. As Stephanie mentioned, in the BACB newsletter, gifts are defined as any tangible or financial item exchanged between behavior analysts and client outside of the scope of a contract for services. This can include gifts, money, gift cards, or food. According to Bailey and Birch, 2016, exchanging gifts creates a dual relationship. The clients and the behavior analysts now become friends, and the BCBA is expected to return the favor at the right time. There are many reasons why gifts can cause dual relationships. Once you accept a gift, expectations may then be set whether you know it or not. Some expectations that may be set include, but are not limited to, the family may expect better therapy from you. They might expect a gift for their child's birthday, a Christmas present, or other significant holidays that they may celebrate. The family might think it's okay to invite you to the park on the weekends or to a holiday gathering. Or the family might just continually increase the monetary value of the gift since you have already accepted one. I will show a brief video on gift giving by Dr. John Bailey. He will discuss how gift giving for clients and create a relationship.
Yeah. Wait a second. The answer is of appreciation. This is winter two at a resort. We appreciate. The answer is no. Well, I mean, it's sincere. It's a gift. It means nothing. It's unethical. Receiving a gift from a client is unethical. Now, you have to say more words than that, you may know. Basically, those verbal behavior, they're autoclitics. So you say, well, I really try to be an analyst. The code of ethics. Ethics is about dual relationships with people. And if I accept that creates a difference than we have now. I'm your therapist and you're my client. If I accept this, then we become friends. That's a dual relationship. And so, in short, the answer is no.
So the following are now a few examples of multiple relationships scenarios that I or others in the field have experienced. A family attempted to invite their child's ABA therapist and their BCBA out to an expensive restaurant for dinner to thank them for their services to their child. The BCBA graciously declined the offer and told them that if they wanted to show thanks, then they would love to receive some crafts or homemade cards from the child instead. Another example is that a family gave a BCBA that I work with a $50 gift card to Starbucks for Christmas. This obviously has a high monetary value and goes against our code of ethics for accepting gifts. The BCBA did the ethical thing and reminded them that she has to abide by her ethical guideline of not accepting gifts and thank the family for thanking of her. Other examples of some things that I and others that I have worked with and have had clients try to gift us on holidays that we have had to decline include water bottles, coffee cups, champagne, coffee beans, and gift cards. Although some of those things might seem as if it would cause a dual relationship, all people read into things differently. It is better to err on the side of caution when situations like this arise. Thank them and appropriately decline the gift. When it comes down to it, we ultimately need to ask ourselves, what is the right thing to do? What is worth doing? And what does it mean to be a good behavior analyst? Cooper, Heron, and Heward, 2007. We have an ethical obligation to uphold and need to always revert to our ethical guidelines. So to wrap things up, I will be summarizing and answering a few questions after hearing all of the previously stated points. The first question, is there a monetary value that the therapist can use to objectively decide if a gift is okay or not? This is ultimately left up to the therapist's discretion, although always keeping in mind our ethical guideline that states we are not to accept any gifts. 2, should I accept edible gifts from clients? This is also a scenario that should be left up to therapist discretion. Overall, edible gifts are less intrusive in creating slippery slopes. A lot of companies have created policies that state if you feel you must give a gift, which is not necessary, then edible gifts such as cookies or chocolates are fine. 3, are there guidelines you could offer to help therapists know if a gift is okay to accept or not? Well, you should always be proactive. You or your agency that you work for should send an email to clients and parents informing the code of ethics and letting them know that no gifts will be able to be received. This may prevent some awkward situations for you and your staff. Another option is to provide an alternative. In an email alerting clients and parents of the no gift rule, offer them the opportunity to say something nice or to give feedback to you or your staff. Kind words can mean a lot more than a plate of cookies or a gift card. It can also provide an opportunity for clients and parents to provide feedback on services. You could also give them a printable card, such as something like this that says, "Thanks for your day. The best gift you gave was kindness you showed." So, to wrap things up, This will conclude our informal debate of gift giving in the field of applied behavior analysis. We hope we provided useful knowledge and facts that help illustrate the importance in always referring to our ethical and professional guidelines in terms of gift giving. And just as Dr. Bailey mentioned in the video, the answer when accepting a gift from a client is always no. Thank you.